As the pandemic taught us, communications through digital methods became more valuable than we once thought. Newsletters and social media posts became the only way that we can communicate with our people. At Town Hall, we really upped our game last year. So we couldn't mingle at events anymore, and we couldn't facilitate conversations the way we commonly did. So we started doing newsletters more often. So in the beginning of the week, in the beginning of the week, we would do cold hard facts about COVID in the community. And then as we began shutting down, at the end of the week, we were sending out virtual event ideas that you can participate in, sing by yourself or with your family. And because of that growth and consistency, at the end of the year, we managed to accumulate 513 new email contacts for the newsletters. And we ended last year with 4,591 newsletter subscribers.
Wow.
So, and I really think that has to do with how the times have changed and how people seek knowledge quickly and timely, and having that information right in their inboxes was really helpful. I'm just going to share my screen and show you some key tips that I have. Okay. Sorry, I never know how you guys can see it, so feel free to speak up. Okay. So our email marketing specifically emails newsletters to residents to give the timely updates for factual information. As I said before, and how Beth said, the town manager does weekly newsletters now. Instead of the bi-weekly, we shifted back to having weekly newsletters. The COVID information isn't as readily available, and we don't need the twice a week anymore. Beth sends her economic development newsletter for timely updates with the business community, and we're now starting to do some construction updates as well. While the town hall doesn't sell products, to track the return of investment for the newsletter, we do track the content though. So our email marketing metrics and the key performance indicators that you might want to consider when you're analyzing your newsletters are your click to open rate, your unsubscribed rate, and your bounce rate. And for those that aren't sure what those terms are, the definitions are right there. So there are also different industry standards for the percentages of where you want to align. So you can just do a quick search with, Campaign Monitor or social media today to see where your percentages should fall, to see how healthy your return of investments are. Your average email open rate, regardless of your industry, should be between 15 and 25%. The average click-through rate should be about 2.5%, and your average click-to-open rate should be between 20 to 30%. So this is just a quick snapshot of our newsletters. You can see the business newsletter that was just recently sent out went to 1,679 people. Of those sends, 670 people opened it, 66 people clicked on it. It bounced back only 5 times, and then 4 people decided they did not want to receive the newsletters any longer. A big red flag for me when I'm looking at this is the difference in the results between the 2 town manager newsletters. If you look at the open rate between the second column, you'll see there was a 2% decrease in opens between February and March. So I'm gonna now go back in and see what exactly was in those two newsletters and try and compare them to see which information individuals found more pertinent or more engaging, or other things that they might have wanted to know more about in town hall so we can prepare for our next newsletter. And then we had a 52% increase in clicks between the February and March newsletters. So I want to know exactly what people clicked on, comparatively speaking, between the two, and make sure that we're following up with information regarding what they've clicked upon. And this is just an overview about our month with the newsletters. We have our open rate is roughly 45%. And I have just, and our click rate is roughly 20%. So that's pretty good. And throughout the month, we've had 7,659 people open our emails. So I would say that's doing pretty well. And it also gives us our industry averages at the bottom, and it shows that we are well above our industry average. So I'm happy to see that when I pull our monthly reports. And then just as a great resource to follow up with newsletters, I found this link on HubSpot about metrics email marketers should be tracking. Does anybody have any questions?
So Ashley, so just so everybody knows too, I don't know if she mentioned this in the beginning, but we use Constant Contact. So for email newsletters, we've found that Constant Contact is the best way to do it. Ashley, how many hours would you say you, you spend on doing a newsletter?
Probably about 4 hours, because we're still in the process of learning, as I do have a new role. A lot of departments send me information directly, and I do have to spend some time digging through the different departments just to make sure that it is a well-rounded newsletter. As Beth said, we do use the Constant Contact. So when Constant Contact did a lovely new refresh, that first newsletter took me a little bit longer because I had to figure out what buttons I wanted to use again. So there's always a learning curve with that. But I would say about 4 hours solid to do these newsletters every week, just to make sure that all the information is there. If you're a business owner, it's probably not going to take that long because you probably will do, a shout out for maybe a special or highlighting 1 to 2 products. Our newsletters, they're, I don't know if you guys have ever received them, but they are quite cumbersome, as opposed to a business maybe just sending out a quick, hey, we're here, come check out our weekly dinners. That would probably only take 2 hours.
And once you have a template set up, you can use that template going forward. You can just copy it for the next time too. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Valerie, did you have a question?
I didn't have a question. I had a comment. I was just going to say, I get a lot of, as we all do, a lot of information. And I always open up the newsletters from the town manager because they're clear and concise and they give me exactly the information I want. So good job, Ashley.
Oh, thank you, Valerie. Thank you.
And just to piggyback on that, I was just, so you had mentioned that the click rate, an average click rate is 2.5%, and that you're at between 19 and 29%. You're around the 20%. That's 10 times above what the average is. So right. is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's really
and I mean, you have to think about it too. Step away from the numbers. I know this because I'm looking at them every week. A lot of our clicks are the COVID numbers.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
so just to take that into consideration, that's always the number 1 click. looking more.
I think it has something to do with relevant information. So in my newsletters, Adam, a lot of it's the grants. So when I first put out that we had the micro enterprise grant available to people, or the business incentive program, that was a huge amount of click-throughs for those. So it does keep you sort of in check to know what you're posting is relevant and what people want to see more of. So I think it's a good tracking system for any business or any nonprofit or any town.
Right. I mean, there's the data, right? I mean, you need to know what the data is, and then you can then go a little bit more granular and figure out what are people actually clicking on, what are people really interested in, and then you can sort of hone in on that relevant information.
Yeah,
Right.
the best part about social media marketing is, and I call it either media market or, emails, whatever it is. But you can figure out, you have the return, right? You can see the proof. You can see what it is when you put it in print marketing, which is great. But you don't know necessarily unless people are coming into your business saying, oh, I saw it in the newspaper. Oh, I saw it in this. So.
And the other
Ashley,
I'm sorry, Dick, go ahead.
yeah, a quick question. In terms of the clicks, where there are, you say people click on the COVID rates and other articles. If they click more than once in that newsletter, does that count as 2 clicks or just 1 click?
I believe it's 2 because
Okay.
I can
it's
show
sections.
you, but when I click on, this is Constant Contact setup, MailChimp and the others might differ. Depends on what you use. But when I go in my Constant Contact, it shows me how many people clicked on each individual URL.
Okay.
So I do get the full breakdown.
Terrific. So any other questions for Ashley? All right, Lynn, why don't you take it away? And oh no, wait, sorry, it's Lisa. Lisa, why don't you take it away? Sorry, you're second. Why don't you take it away and kind of talk about what you're doing to find success?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us today. So I am here to talk about Instagram, which has actually been a tool that we have, I think, used quite successfully over the last year. So for those of you that know the backstory or don't know the backstory, so I own Blush Bouquets, which is the flower shop here in the center of town. Took over from Talby Florist. We are coming up on our 2-year anniversary next month. Crazy to say, 2 years in business, 1 year as trying to struggle and figure out who the heck we were, and then 1 year in a pandemic. So I have found that the pandemic has helped me really focus in on what I want my brand to be. And Instagram has been a huge part of that brand building exercise. So one of the first things I wanted to talk to you guys about was just developing a personality and who you are and what you're putting forward on Instagram. So Instagram is known as this like very pretty picture. Everything's got a filter. It often isn't a reflection of real life. And my flower shop Instagram is no different than that. So I have made since the beginning some very, very conscious choices about what I want to put into my feed, how I want to talk to people, the language I want to use. I think right now when we're in the midst of this, global pandemic, life is tough. Life is really, really hard. It's hard for small businesses. It's hard for moms. It's hard for teachers. It's hard for kids. It's hard for dads. It's hard for all of us. And I made a very conscious decision that my Instagram was never going to be a negative place. It was always going to be a very positive place. Regardless of how hard my day might have been, I might have only made $30 that day. Nobody might have walked in, but you would never know that by looking at our social media feed. It was always going to be something pretty. It was always going to be something positive. And that's just been really important to me because, I do follow other flower shops in other places across the country that are always posting about how hard it is. And it makes me actually not want to do business with them as a consumer. And I think also if you've ever walked into the store, my personality tends to be a bit bubbly and big and chatty and positive. So that also needed to come through in our feed. I also I do use filters. one thing I never really realized before I came into this world of flower shop ownership is that taking pictures of flowers is really hard. Colors don't read well, but I've managed to find a group of filters, a filter pack, if you will, in Lightroom that I really like. And so I recommend to anyone, you know, whether you're using the free Lightroom app and editing your pictures using your own preferred settings, or you go and buy a pack, try to have that consistency of the way your pictures look. So, you know, when you're scrolling through my feed, I don't really follow the triptych method. I know that was really big for a while, which was where you would do 3 pictures that were always related. But I do try to make sure that there's always something that makes it very visibly blush in those posts. So that, I think that helps. One thing that's really interesting is this weekend I got sucked in and I finally did my introduction post. I had been afraid to ever really step out and have my face be on a post. It has, in 2 days, been my most successful post ever, my most interacted with post ever. My next topic that I was going to talk about was consistency, and leading back into that. After Valentine's Day, I actually took a break from posting. I was feeling a little burned out after Valentine's Day, and I did not post for 2 weeks. And my business was slow. There is absolutely a correlation between putting your brand in front of people's faces in their feed and people coming in your store, people going on your website, people calling you. I didn't post for 2 weeks. Then last week, I finally got back up off the ground and I posted 5 days in a row. And my interactions were up. This is my favorite number I've ever used. My interactions were up 17,000%. 17,000% compared to the week before. I mean, that's not even a real number, is it? I have 750 followers on Instagram. We're not talking about big numbers, but I did see that this post that I did on Sunday, which was the introduction to me and my brand, I had 150 likes, I think, on that post. The biggest I'd ever had before was 70. So I was doubling the number of interactions. So that's where that personality, you know, showing people who I am, letting people understand, you know, the weirdo behind these crazy posts and these crazy captions is this real person who does behave this way in real life. I think it's really, really key. The other thing I've noticed about just the posts that I put out, people are following a flower shop and they do want to see pictures of flowers. People interact the most and respond the most to my posts about flowers, or I'm very strategically positioned in my store right now, my plant wall. My plant wall is hands down the most popular thing that I ever post. It is consistently a huge post. People come flying in the store when I post about the plant wall. I don't know what it is about the plant wall, but people love it. So every time I post this plant wall, I think the plant wall is 4 of my top 5 pictures for the last 2 years. It's crazy. I will say that people tend to interact less with things that aren't relevant to them. So if I post about, you know, a product that they're not interested in, it's probably going to go over like a lead balloon. So I'm just finding that need to keep coming back to why we're here, which is I'm a flower shop, I sell flowers and I sell plants, really keeps people engaged. Another thing about Instagram and social media in general that I think we all kind of get sucked into is the idea of how many followers do you have? How big is your audience? How fast are you growing? So I've been doing this for 2 years and I have 750 followers. I have other friends that have been doing this for less time that have thousands of followers. But I will tell you that my numbers change very slightly. So I don't lose a lot of followers. I'm gaining a handful every week, but I'm never losing them. And I have found that friends that do more promotions, giveaways, cross-posting, they'll get a big boost in their numbers and then they'll get a big drop. So I really push about that quality audience versus the quantity. So I know of my 750 followers, I've got this group of probably 100 core customers that I know the names of their families, their kids. I know their favorite products. I know what kind of flowers they like, what kind of flowers they don't like. I probably might even know their birthday. And that audience group is really who's going to continue exploding my market. So they're going to post when they get something from me, and people will trust them to then grow their brand that way, or grow my brand that way. So if a friend is posting about a product that they like, or a store they like, or a company that they trust, maybe it's their insurance company and they really had a great interaction with them and they post about it, then the friends of friends are going to keep growing your business. And I think the last thing that kind of goes into that I wanted to talk about is promotions. So in my world, I have my Instagram account linked to my Facebook account. So I post one and done. So I post once on Instagram, I build my post the way I like it, and then it pushes into Facebook. You can then promote those posts on Instagram and on Facebook for, I mean, you can do it for $5. I don't know if you guys have had much success with boosting posts, or if you've even tried it. You can do it with $5, you can do it with $100. I have found that boosting posts on Instagram gets you lots and lots of views, but not a lot of results. So for example, when we launched last year, we launched a program called Sugar and Flowers, which is a monthly flower and cake subscription. So once a month, you get a cake and you get flowers from a local baker here in town and flowers from here at our shop. I promoted that post on Instagram and on Facebook. I think in the end, we had 5,000 views of the post and I got 4 new followers. That's it. 4 people out of 4,000. I mean, not a ton of results. And on the flip side, I was running promotions on Facebook leading up into the holidays, not spending as much money, just a little bit of money. And it was more, it wasn't really a specific product that I was trying to drive people to buy, like this subscription product. It was more just getting the word out about our store. And I was focusing on some other towns, not necessarily just Ashland, because it's amazing that, you know, not everybody in connecting towns know me. I mean, obviously I'm a celebrity, so you should know me by now. And I had a woman and her husband walk into my store just before Christmas one day and say, I keep seeing your ads on Facebook and I loved your store. I loved it. Like everything about your ads was perfect. It was just what I wanted. That turned into, she and her husband both got their entire staff's Christmas gifts here in my store. Their staff members have now turned into my customers. They have also purchased, because I carry all local, small, female-run brands whenever possible. One of the staff members actually reached out, now buys soap directly from Fiorella Soapery, who's our soap vendor, buys cocoa bombs directly from Katie at Sugar, because she bought them here in the store. She even connected her sister, who is a maker, with Caitlin from Fiorella to do some co-marketing together. And her husband now gets flowers for the house every 2 weeks. So I probably spent $10 on that Facebook marketing, but it is just turned into probably at this point, $5,000 worth of business for me, which in my tiny little store, that's a huge, huge, huge number. So I know Lynn does some things the same way over at the Ale House, where she's using Instagram and Facebook similarly. And I think she can also talk to some of those promotions and those interactions as well. That's kind of all I have to say now about Instagram. I don't know if anybody has any specific Instagram questions, or if maybe Lynn wants to just jump in about Facebook, and then we can come back and talk about the two together at the end.
I do think one thing, we'll have to see that post.
Which
So,
one?
hold on, I'm going to show it. There she is.
The one about me?
Yeah.
So my mother looked at this picture the other day and she went, "You look different in this picture." And I said, "You know what it is? It was fear." Because that picture was taken like one of our first days open and I was terrified.
Oh, that's too funny. I think it looks fabulous. But that was the one, that was the post that she was talking about. So
Yeah.
Share that. All right, Lynn, why don't you, that's a good segue right into you.
All right. How you doing, everyone? My name's Lynn, and I run the Ashland Ale House, and I do mostly all of the social media and posting for the restaurant. And I do also use Facebook and Instagram, and I do have them connected so that I can just do one post and it will automatically do it to another, so that it kind of eliminates some of the work. I did just want to talk about Facebook and setup first. I'm going to share screen here. Or maybe not. Let me see. Sorry. So I'm really sorry.
Can you see
right here? Okay, I'm sorry. So Facebook has come a really long way from when I first started a page for a restaurant in like 2007. Now they make pages, and they have some really good templates that can be very sector or business specific, and gives you some tools to kind of use depending on your business. So this is the page that the Ale House has. So as you can see, the template at the top, we are a restaurant, obviously. And then they provide you some tabs with some basic information, menu. We have a large beer selection, so the beer list was important to us. And then you can see where you can kind of tab on or off things at different times. So if you want to use it, you can, or you don't have to. And then you can also rearrange them how you'd like. So if you want people to see your menu first, or your pictures first, or events, reviews, you can put them in whatever order of importance they are to you. So that was the first thing I just wanted to share, because I think Facebook kind of lends you a lot of basic information to start, and gives you a good, step in the right direction. I believe that posting at least once, but up to 3 times a week, I think is important to keep you current or relative or in people's feeds, or and also when you post that often, it kind of allows your users or fans to know that this is still something that you are keeping current, so they know they can rely on this for the most up-to-date information. Sometimes if I go to a page, I'm not sure if did their hours change? Are they just not using the page anymore? Or are the hours just the same? But if they can see that you are constantly posting, then they'll know that they can find the most up-to-date information from your Facebook page. And then as far as content I was just going to show one other post that I kind of used. So this is a special. I will take the picture and put only a few words, because people do scroll through feeds pretty fast. So you don't want the pictures to have, I believe, a ton of words. Something that will just grab them. And I always try to include the logo, because sometimes a lot of burgers look the same, and you want to make sure they know it's coming from your restaurant and not a different one. And then I'll use the post to go into greater detail, or I try to always tag the restaurant. Sometimes if we do things with breweries, I'll tag the brewery, because if someone enjoys that brewery, they might follow the brewery, but not the restaurant. Now I can see that the Ale House serves that beer, and it might get a click from that user that never knew that the Ale House existed. And I also use hashtags, which I try to focus on local, so the surrounding towns, so that we know that people that would actually come to the restaurant are the people that are maybe engaging or seeing the posts. And then the other thing I try to do when I do a post is a call to action. So saying something in the post like, while it lasts, or only available for this weekend, or head over to our website, or start your order now, just to kind of make people react to the post so that you get something out of it, even a visit to the restaurant, or direct them to the website, which maybe they've never been to before, and then they might start clicking around the website and learn something new about the business. So that was one of the posts I want to show. And as far as taking pictures of food, I find that natural light is better. Filters do work, but sometimes if you get a little, I find if I get a little crazy with the filters, it might end up looking like a completely different dish. So I try to limit the use of filters and just really make sure the light is good. And then also animation just to catch the eye while people are scrolling through. So like a quick burst or something really only 3 or 6 seconds that would maybe make them stop and look at the rest of the post opposed to just continuing to scroll along. So I like to use a program called Adobe Spark Post. It's a app you can download on your phone, and I know you can also log in on your desktop. It has animation, it has templates, it has, it will suggest colors based off your pictures so that they all kind of look like they tied together. And you can save them all. So if you found a template that you really liked, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to post something. You can just swap out the specific pictures or the wording, or whatever you wanna put. And finally, I also use promotions. I feel like people react differently to different ones. I have pretty, I think, good success with Instagram and Facebook. I also do feel like whatever we do post, we can definitely tell in the sale of that food item, because as soon as we post something, we will sell a lot of it, and we'll kind of use that to our advantage, whether it's something that we know we have a lot of that we want to move, or something that we maybe did for the week and we have some left that we want to make sure we sell. So we'll kind of focus on those items. So that was all. Anybody have any questions?
How much time do Lynn, Lisa, either one of you, how much time do you spend on this? I keep coming back to this, right? So every business right now is just, they're just straight out. Everybody's super busy. So it's how do we balance our time in order to fit this in? Because clearly it's important and clearly it works.
Sometimes I spend more time than others. It depends. I know for us, I always like to try to focus on the weekly specials or things that, like I said, would kind of get people's attention because they can only have it for a limited time. So sometimes, you know, I'll spend a half hour trying to make a post. Also, something with Facebook I am familiar with is you can schedule posts. So we change our specials for the week every Monday. So a lot of times we'll do pictures on Monday, and I'll go through and schedule a post for Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. That way I know it's kind of done, and I know that there's something being posted every other day, or at least that 3 times per week.
So that's been a conversation in the chat. People are asking what schedulers people use. Lynn, you said you mentioned that you just use Facebook itself to use a scheduler. I'm sure you remember this as well, but when Facebook and Instagram were trying to merge, it was incredibly glitchy and it was really hard. You would spend hours to make sure that your schedule posts were lined up, and then they just wouldn't happen. I've noticed that it seems to have worked itself out. I personally use a program called later.com. It's one of the least expensive options, honestly. And they also have a nonprofit discount if you're a nonprofit entity. And then someone also asks to put in the comments what you use to build your posts. And Lynn, you said you used Adobe Spark. And then I was just mentioning that I also use canva.com religiously as well. And I think the biggest time savers are to, you know, put together your 5 posts on Adobe Spark or Canva and then schedule them. I think that's the biggest time saver. And just one more thing I wanted to add, as we do all of these digital marketing methods, the newsletters and the social media, it's important to remember that all of the information you put out there is an extension of your website. You want all of your information to first live on your website as a home, and then you can go and disseminate all the information you want individually. If you don't link the information back to your website, you essentially don't know how well your communications are. For Lynn and Lisa, they own shops and they own stores, so they get that instant gratification with their customers that are in-house. But for other businesses, that might necessarily be the best way to see if everything's working out. So I just want you to keep that in mind. And another time saver for me is when I do my newsletter first, I then have 10 Facebook posts right there, because they're all just segments in my newsletter. So then I just pull and schedule those. Just some food for thought.
Lisa, did you have anything on time?
No, I mean, it's one of those things for me. I find it, I have to remember to take the picture. When you're running a small business by yourself, it is sort of difficult sometimes. And I also find that there's a big rabbit hole to it, which is I go to take one picture and then I don't really like it. So then I go to take another, and before you know it, it's been 2 hours and I really wanted to do a tour of the store and all that stuff. So it's really about dedicating the time. Like I said before, it's about that consistency and knowing that you are going to have the results after you do the social media post, but just like getting yourself to do it.
Great. Any other questions? I think somebody had a question.
I wanted to know, this is Louise Bowen, if there's a charge for the templates and tabs on Facebook to use that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Yeah, that was new to me. I didn't know about that one. Thanks, Lynn. I think everybody just needs one takeaway from today, and then it's just been a win for an hour. If you ask me, I don't know. Any other questions or even like tips that you're using that you found? Like, so Wendy, what's Buffer?
So I've been using Buffer for a few years with one of my other firms. I used to use it for Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I could just have something and just kind of tweak each thing I wanted to post, and I could schedule it for a month out. It was great. I still use it occasionally for LinkedIn. My new firm doesn't allow for Facebook posting. It's very complicated, but we have this little side business of doing little microgreens with the kids, and we've been kind of putting some stuff on Instagram, and I think it's hard to take pictures of food. It's hard to take pictures of plants. So we've been kind of playing around with that, and I've noticed like if I incorporate a character or like we have cat planters and things like that are kind of interesting to kind of see what do people click on. And Buffer, when you use Buffer, it does help you understand who has been clicking on your things. How many opens have you gotten? How much what's that client or potential client interaction been like? So it's for me, it's been a good thing to use. I'm kind of interested. I didn't really realize there was later.com and all these other really cool schedulers that are out there, but I've been using Buffer for years, and I find it pretty inexpensive and easy. It's all fun. But I had a question, like when you try to think of content, I think I was kind of intrigued by Lisa's, like how she came up with her messaging. I like the idea of being positive. You want to show your sunny side, and kind of make it a welcoming environment. Your store certainly does that. And what were the factors that you were thinking about when you were designing your Instagram? Like, how did you translate that? Like, what were your considerations?
Do you mean in terms of the imagery that I was picking, or
the imagery and just like, it sounds like there was more than just, I'm going to take some pictures of some beautiful flowers. You had a kind of like a
there's a lot
organized
of there's a lot of trial and error. It is often from like things that I just think look pretty in the store. And And then sometimes the one thing about Instagram that is really hard is you think something looks really pretty in the store and you go and take a picture of it and it's a terrible picture and a filter won't help it. So I find, you know, it's a lot of trial and error, just like what looks good on my phone. It's funny, when I was preparing that post on Sunday, the number of terrible pictures that are in my phone camera roll that I've taken and never used in this store is really overwhelming. So yeah, it just does tend to be just a lot of trial and error. And I think I probably put more, this is a terrible thing to say, I probably put more thought into what the message and the caption is than what the picture is going to be. So at any point in time, I might have 4 or 5 different arrangements in the fridge that I want to take a picture of, or 3 or 4 different puppies in the store that I want to promote. But it's what am I, like, what's that content really about? Like, what's the message that I'm giving to the customer that might actually drive them to come into the store?
Okay.
And I'm finding like the pictures could just be interchangeable with, it's the message that's a little bit more important.
Yeah, I find the messages are pretty hard to come up with, something that's, you know, for me, it's usually witty. I have to actually follow you on Instagram. I'm not like the best at trying to, it's one of those things I forget I have it and then I ignore it for a few months.
I also have 2 accounts on Instagram. So I have the work account, the store account, and then I have a personal account, and I follow very different groups. And I think just seeing what other people are posting about, one of the things I always tell brides when they come in is it's as important for you to tell me what you hate as telling me what you like. And I find the same on social media. Like, you'll see brands that really rub you the wrong way. And I use that as much to determine what's my content going to be. As what I really like.
Okay. Thank you. And Lynn, I had a question for you. I don't want to monopolize the time here. But Lynn, when you, I was intrigued by your lighting. I know that's a good part is, I watched Clueless recently and there was some line in there about stumbling into some bad lighting, which I know that's, sometimes I feel like that. I've stumbled into some bad lighting, or my plants have, or the kids, you know, they usually fall asleep mid picture. So do you have, I know you said natural lighting. How do you, I have some lighting, but it usually doesn't look good. I don't know what the deal is, but.
Yeah, so the inside of the restaurant is actually a little on the darker side. So for me, the more natural lighting is actually in the back of the house, and natural meaning not so much like this, you know, outdoor light as much as I just mean the natural light of the room. In the kitchen, obviously it's much more well lit and there's light from all directions. So I try to just and sometimes I'll walk around with a dish in 6 different areas of the kitchen and take 100 pictures. And before I find one that maybe doesn't cast a shadow, or, you know, there's just a lot of times different colors in the dish and they just react differently to even what I put it on, you know, the surface, the prep table versus a cutting board, you know, the white cutting board. So I just try to, you know, play around with it and the angle too, just to make sure you can kind of see it. And a lot of times I read that if there's a lot of kind of negative space, or I use my iPhone with portrait mode, which helps me kind of zoom in or focus on one part of it. And then later I might crop out, you know, 3/4 of the picture just to kind of get in there a little bit better. But so that's all.
That was my next question, is if you had a fancy phone or.
Yeah, and I think the cameras on phones have come a long way. I've always had an iPhone, so I'm not really familiar with Androids, but I'm sure they all have, you know, different modes and stuff like that. So that's all. And I try to never use the flash on the camera.
Okay.
I've heard that's not so I guess the flash versus the natural, you know, the environment that it's around tends to be better. So.
I did find about 6-7 months ago, I went on Amazon and I invested in a 36 by 36 inch photo box, which I put in the back room. It does tend to read really bright, but it was really helpful for me as well. Something like that might be helpful when you're starting to talk about plants. Just trying to get those true green colors can sometimes be difficult. But that photo box, it's $100 on Amazon. They're super easy, and they're pop up, pop down. You can share them with a friend.
They sell like the selfie light rings too.
Yep.
Or super cheap. That come like on a little tripod.
That's very cool. I know I've used YouTube to kind of get my message out before. Has anyone else had experience with YouTube? It's been interesting. I've had a few subscribers and actually had someone reach out after seeing some video from 2 years ago. And it's one of those things I'm not consistent about my marketing, about putting it out there and just kind of setting the time. Do you ladies schedule time every week and just say every Sunday, you're just pinch hitting, Lisa, you're like, I got time right now, I'm going to bang it out. But it's on your agenda. Your overall agenda is like you're posting 3 times a week, or is it more?
Yeah, in a perfect world, I think consistency is, not the number 2 bullet on my sheet, but it's something that I need to be better about, because I think I kind of do feast or famine, where I'll be really good and do my 3 posts a week, and then I'll go quiet for 2 weeks because something happened in the store.
Yeah.
So really, I need to be better about scheduling that time.
I think it's also important to say that the different social media platforms have different audiences. And you have to also consider the algorithms. Facebook and Instagram both, to get the most optimization from the algorithms, is to post no more than 3 to 5 times. With my business here at Town Hall, I can't post that little, but I know that my posts at 9 o'clock will always get the most views. So I think it just depends on your brand, your business, and what that looks like. And then Wendy, to answer your other question about the YouTube is still one of the biggest social media platforms, but it's not for everybody to capitalize on. I launched a YouTube account for us simply to house the videos of all the interviews of the departments I was using, but I don't use it as a marketing tool. But you can see how YouTube has influenced how important video content is now that Instagram's doing videos, Facebook is, TikTok is it for the kids. So there is something to be said for that.
Perfect. Thank you. And Lynn, you're doing weekly posts because of the nature of your weekly specials. So you just kind of devote like a Sunday or just a specific day of the week?
Yeah, usually Mondays are the day we kind of flip a lot of things. So I'll try to do Monday, and then throughout the week, if something arises or we tap a new beer, or when hopefully we get back to doing entertainment on like Friday and Saturday nights, I would kind of do something like that to let people know that we would have that starting at 9 o'clock tonight and stuff like that. So
that's very cool. Thank you.
So I think the overall message today was that you need to figure out what your brand is, right? And you need to keep that consistent. So, the Ale House always has their logo on theirs. Blush always has her blush colors. I think you can see the similarities every time. So it makes people remember you. I think if you've got a brand, I think trial and error was the number 2 thing that we've probably learned today. Just try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try something else. So I think that's a really good takeaway for today. And then lastly, I think the most important thing is that we just have to do it. Like, we just have to find the time. You have to use social media. You have to use digital marketing to make your business really kind of grow. So if I were, to kind of wrap it up, I think those would be the top 3 takeaways for today. I thank you all so much, Lynn, Lisa, and Ashley, for being here on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Ashland Business Association. Thank you for all joining us. and look for our next event. We're working actually with the Metro West Chamber of Commerce on April 1st. It's a trivia night. It is virtual. So be sure to check out the website for that. We have a great partnership with the Metro West Chamber of Commerce. And so we're happy to combine in a couple events with them each year, every year. So that will be our next one. And then we're gonna be planning some more good stuff for the spring, hopefully a little bit in person too. So thank you all so much for coming today. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.